So moving on, we have Laura McLoughlin, and Laura McLoughlin is a blow-in from Lurgan, who now lives in County Armagh. Oh, sorry, who now lives on a farm in County Armagh and works as a digital PR. She is fond of houseplants, Taylor Swift, and Grady Hendrix novels. When she is not writing, you may be surprised to learn she is stalking members of the Armagh Writers Facebook group, as I discovered for myself when Laura and I found ourselves in the exact same hotel, in the exact same European country, for exactly 1 week of skiing this past January. What are the chances? I'm standing at the buffet and this little voice beside me goes, "Excuse me, are you Biddy Lane?" I thought, oh my God, I'm nearly as famous as Pamela Ballantyne. But alas, it was just somebody that had been chosen to read for flash fiction. So, but it was great. It was great. It was a great week. So it was. So the question could also be posed: who is stalking who? Her first novel, The Many Ghosts of Donahue Burns, will be published by Bonnier Books on October the 10th this year. So well done. This evening, Laura is reading her story, The Man. Come on here, Laura.
The Man. I took a new job in the spring, and my allocated desk was, most fortunately, or perhaps stressfully if I am to consider it now, situated by the window facing the main street. From 2 stories up, I could see across the road to the tree-lined promenade, through which hustled dog walkers, runners, and commuters with to-go coffees. There was also a man. He looked around 50, with sun-leathered skin and thick, almost black eyebrows, and was sitting on a bench at the bus stop. This in itself was not odd, but by mid-morning several buses had gone by, and he was still there, clouding the air with cigarette smoke, hands stuffed into coat pockets. The next day was the same, as was the one after that, and when I asked my desk neighbour what he was waiting for, she replied, "Nothing. He always sits there. Doesn't he work? Doesn't seem to." The idea was a foreign concept I could scarcely imagine, and the reality of it, well, it was infuriating. I hate to admit it, but my work hours became increasingly marred by the question of how it was that he could afford to spend days at a time in inactivity, while I was in perpetual motion, sending emails, taking calls, eating lunch while reviewing documents for afternoon meetings. Even after work, I knew there was the school run, groceries, dogs to walk, and some art project to buy paint for. How could he do nothing? I got something of an answer in July. The town was experiencing a rare heatwave, and my mood was just as torrid. My children were off school, the traffic had been awful, I was already sweating through my cotton shirt, and upon arrival at my desk, my email inbox notified me, with a cheerful chirp, that I had another 5 things to add to my to-do list. Then I looked out my window. He was there, smoking as always, wearing a light grey t-shirt, unbothered and unmoved. Couldn't he be lifting rubbish, I said to myself, or walking dogs, or doing anything at all to be of service to society, the way everyone else was expected to? I'm embarrassed of it now, but at that moment I couldn't help myself. I got up, marched downstairs, and crossed the street, and I know it's not polite to stare, but I didn't mean to be polite. I wanted the man to understand that I saw him. I wanted to jolt him into action, for him to experience just a drop of the constant rush to which I was subjected every single day. The man, however, merely gazed past me, his interest taken up with something else entirely. Fine, I thought, I will simply stand here until he has the decency to look even a little bit ashamed. So I did, and as I stood there, I realized that the trees behind the man were the most luminous yellow-green. They must have been in full bloom now, and their leaves dappled the pavement with soft shade. It was then that I noticed a squirrel, scaling the gnarled bark of one of the trees, going around and around, spiralling into the safety of its tall branches, sniffing the air with that delicate, downy nose as it went. Without thinking, I breathed out. It was a salve. My gaze returned to the man, his mouth pinched around his cigarette, grey hair sprouting like a ragged lawn over his head, and I thought, he must breathe out all the time. He must breathe like this every day. At once the questions which had riled me up all these months were answered, and I understood. I saw a life lived in stillness, and I understood. Taking another cooling breath, I tipped my head to the man. I turned to go. Of course, I then came face to face with the largest television I had ever seen in my life. 20% off, the sign in the electronics store's window screamed. Get it before it's gone. The television on offer played some old sitcom, and though it was soundless behind the glass, large subtitles skated along the bottom. I turned back to the man. He leaned, ever so slightly, in an effort to see past me.